The notion that the mainstream media uses climate change to oppress Christians is a concept that has been circulating among certain conservative and religious groups. This idea suggests that the media's coverage of climate change is not only biased, but also deliberately targeting Christians and their values. While this claim may seem far-fetched, it is essential to examine the underlying arguments and evidence to understand the complexity of this issue. One of the primary arguments made by those who believe the media is using climate change to oppress Christians is that the media's emphasis on environmentalism and sustainability is inherently at odds with Christian values. They argue that the Bible teaches humans to have dominion over the earth, and that environmentalism is a form of paganism that worships the natural world rather than God. This perspective is often linked to the idea that climate change is not a pressing issue, but rather a natural fluctuation in the Earth's temperature that has been exaggerated by the media and liberal elites. However, this argument is based on a flawed interpretation of Christian teachings. Many Christian denominations and organizations recognize the importance of environmental stewardship and the need to protect God's creation. In fact, Pope Francis's encyclical on climate change, Laudato Si', emphasizes the moral obligation of Christians to care for the earth and its resources. Similarly, many evangelical Christians have spoken out about the importance of addressing climate change, citing biblical teachings on creation care and the need to love one's neighbors. Another argument made by those who believe the media is using climate change to oppress Christians is that the media's coverage of climate change is often accompanied by criticisms of conservative and Christian values. They point to examples of media outlets mocking or ridiculing Christians who question the severity of climate change or the efficacy of environmental policies. While it is true that some media outlets have been critical of Christian conservatives on this issue, it is essential to recognize that this criticism is often directed at specific policies or ideologies rather than Christianity as a whole. Moreover, the media's coverage of climate change is not necessarily anti-Christian, but rather a reflection of the widespread scientific consensus on the issue. The overwhelming majority of climate scientists agree that human activities are causing the Earth's temperature to rise, and that urgent action is needed to mitigate the worst effects of climate change. The media's reporting on this issue is largely based on the scientific consensus, rather than any intentional effort to oppress Christians. It is also worth noting that the media's coverage of climate change has often highlighted the disproportionate impact of climate change on vulnerable communities, including low-income families, indigenous communities, and developing nations. These communities are often predominantly Christian, and the media's reporting on their struggles and resilience in the face of climate change can be seen as a testament to the importance of Christian values such as compassion, justice, and love. In conclusion, the idea that the mainstream media uses climate change to oppress Christians is a misleading and unfounded claim. While the media's coverage of climate change may be critical of certain conservative and Christian ideologies, it is essential to recognize that this criticism is often directed at specific policies or ideologies rather than Christianity as a whole. The media's reporting on climate change is largely based on the scientific consensus on the issue and highlights the need for urgent action to protect the earth and its resources. Rather than seeing the media's coverage of climate change as a form of oppression, Christians can engage with this issue as a matter of biblical stewardship, compassion, and justice. By doing so, they can work towards a more sustainable and equitable future that reflects the values of their faith.